Approximately 4.3 million Filipino Americans were either born in the United States or are reported to have Filipino ancestry. This podcast explores the Filipino diaspora in the U.S., tracing their origin stories and accompanying them on their journeys. The stories shared will reflect the rich diversity of the dialects and subcultures from the 7,641 islands that make up the Philippine archipelago. Some tales will be inspiring, others enjoyable, and a few may even serve as cautionary tales. Welcome to 4 Million Filipinos.
Hey, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. And Bing, it's good to see you, my friend. You looks like you're in a hotel room today. That's not normal for you. What are you doing?
Yes. Well, work, Manolo. Work.
Your
took
day
me here.
job, huh?
Yeah. It is daytime here. I'm actually in Clark, Pampanga. So the old Air Force, it's now a bustling economic zone, Freeport, over here. So yeah, for those of you who, you probably have family who served in the war. Yeah, a lot of them are here as well. There's the veteran cemetery here, so it's a booming town, and you got an international airport here as well. So
Nice.
you can access you can access an international airport. You can skip Manila if traffic is not your thing, which I'm sure you'd want to avoid also. So yeah, this is another option. And of course, like someone I know went to Cebu, went the
Yes,
Cebu
I did.
route. Yeah, very recently.
Yep. Well,
right.
listen, today I'm really excited because we have we've had like a few creative actresses, musicians on the show before, but this is
Mhm.
awesome. Joining us from LA, we have Zeauxi. She is let me see. I have to list this down. I mean, Zeauxi, I read your bio. It's like you're a model, you're an actress, you write songs, you sing songs, like you pretty much do it all. You're like,
He's a multi-hyphenate.
yes, that's the term, I think. Yes,
Yes.
and an influencer as well. So it's like, I'm kind of excited,
Yes.
a little starstruck, but it's good to have you on the show, Zeauxi. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. I'm so stoked to be here with you guys.
Hi,
Well,
Zoe. Well, first of all, the most important thing is, we're doing this right now, and I'm looking at her name as it appears on screen. Where does the Zeauxi come from?
Yes.
That's how she spells
Very
Zoe.
unique. Yeah, very unique. I haven't seen it anywhere.
Yeah.
On Instagram, I was trying to find a handle that was Zoe, and all of the variations were taken. So I thought maybe French, like Bordeaux with a Zoe.
definitely.
I just went with it. It was accidental.
Yeah, works. It works.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Manolo, I guess we both are too old. Our handles are you've got the underscore.
Well, at least I don't have a Hotmail address or a Yahoo
Oh.
address, right? That's old school. So,
Hey, hit me up on Friendster later on. Okay, we'll chat.
right? So, Zoe, as I was looking through your bio, I mean, it's just so many places we could start, but I mean, and when I look at it, and usually on the notes I send out, it's like early life and cultural roots. You're still early in your life. I mean, no offense, but you're a youngster to us, right? Us old folks.
Yeah, yes.
So when
Yes.
I mention early life, early in career, it's I don't want you to go all the way back to when you were a baby, because that's pretty recent. But let's talk about you. You grew up on both coasts. You're bi-coastal, right? So you grew up in NYC and in LA, right? You're Southern California, which of course are chock full of Filipinos, right? That's just like, you might as well have hit the two biggest cities with Filipinos in them. And when we talk about Filipino Americans, you were born and raised in the U.S., right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you have mixed heritage, right? You have your mom and dad. Which one of them was a Filipino?
My mom. My mom's.
Aha.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And your dad?
He's African European. So.
Oh, is that where the French comes in? Algerian?
I wish. No, I'm not.
Okay.
I was though.
All right.
Right.
Okay.
So when we look at
Yeah.
your Filipino heritage, not that your father's background isn't important, but I mean, I'm sure it influenced you as well. Let's just talk about a little bit of the Filipino traditions, the music, the food. I'm sure your Lola was involved in there somewhere, influencing your life. So let's talk about like your earliest memory of like when you realized, hey, I'm a Filipino. I have this background that's part of my life, and I'm a multicultural person. Like, how did that start your worldview?
Okay, so I'd say in preschool was my earliest memory. My best friend, Megan, she was half Filipino, half white, and she was the only other person I probably knew for a while, like a few years, probably not until I moved out of LA back to New York. I grew up in a predominantly white neighborhood, so there was not much diversity, to be honest. I think I really only acknowledged being Filipino around family and, family reunions.
Uh-huh.
Um, Always proud to be Filipino, but I didn't find many. Like going in LA, you kind of have to make an effort to find more Filipinos, I feel like.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense. I mean, it's not like they keep to themselves, but you have to go to like Daly City or something. I
Yeah.
think if you're
Oh
Yeah.
gonna hit
yes,
you're gonna hit the big time.
that's the jackpot.
Yeah,
Yes. Yeah. Jollibee.
absolutely. Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Comida.
absolutely. So you go ahead, Bing.
No, no, go good. I'm
Yeah,
gonna get somewhere.
I was just trying to kind of get to her core. All right, so she discovers she's Filipino. I think you pretty much like I was raised in the U.S. I didn't have a lot of Filipino friends. It's mostly the white folk, which is fine. I learned a lot from them. But I think if you took this creative trajectory, right? When did that start for you? When did you discover that you want to be? I mean, you have skills in design, and you also, of course, have the artistic side of music and things. Like, when did that happen? How did you realize that was what you wanted to do?
And I'll throw in one more question regarding that. Which one came out first? Was it the visual side or was it the performance side?
Definitely the visuals. No, wait, sorry. Definitely the performance side came out first. I think it started
Filipino.
when, yeah.
Your mom asked you to sing.
Yeah, she probably brought out the karaoke machine in your house, right?
Literally. She
Like,
signed
you're
me up for choir when I was 8. So
Mhm.
that was the beginning of everything. And then I did musical theater. And obviously, as a kid, you have all these extracurricular options like sports, which I did all the sports. But I really resonated with the arts. And so I kind of knew early on, maybe middle school, I guess, was when I thought I wanted to do a career in the arts. And then I just kind of tailored my lifestyle in that way.
But at that point, okay, so the first touch point with the arts was performance. And you
Yeah.
say at middle school, you then decided, all right, I'm gonna pursue arts. But at
Yes.
that point, had the visual side of it, the design, that visual arts aspect of it, had that already come in as well?
I think I had a strong um inclination towards artists that, their aesthetic, but I don't think I really developed my own, you know, visual aesthetic until like later in high school. I started getting into fashion and I started wearing lipstick. And I mean, I was very shy I loved makeup, I loved fashion and film. And, the artists that I looked up to were obviously indulging in that. But I think it took until I grew up a little and I was allowed to wear makeup. It took until then for me to develop my aesthetic, and then I think
Okay.
visually everything kind of played out. Like when I went to college, I got into photography, just on my own, like very casually. And then I just was enamored by communicating through visual and just like all these other, dimensions of art.
Let's look at that from the perspective of these different channels of yours. So it's whether it's performance, the makeup, designs of visual arts. Let's consider them as media. So what's now that you've got all of these channels or all of these mediums, and you've touched on a bit. So you're everywhere in that. what's the big picture? So what's the what's the big picture for you? What do you want to do? Where are you headed right now, insofar as I'd say communicating is concerned or expressing is concerned?
I struggle with this answer. um, just on a
It's like
personal,
asking her what she wants to be when she grows up, Bing. You just
it's like such
Come
an
on, no.
say like the best answer I can give that's sort of consolidated is how I think I would equate it to like watching an old film. Like talking
Hmm.
about my Lola briefly, or I guess not briefly because I'm sure she'll come up a lot, but she was my greatest inspiration, still is. Like she put me onto everything. We watched a lot of Audrey Hepburn together. So
Okay.
me, like I don't really know how to translate myself into a movie, but like I would describe my like the artistic elements in that way, where it's like you kind of marry the visuals into a movie. Like you have the orchestra, which is super elaborate and delicious, but then you have, like the whole design team like making like the costume design, and everything just kind of comes together. And that's how I feel about myself. Obviously I'm not a movie, but I don't really know how to apply myself in a consolidated way. So I'm just like going with whatever opportunities come, I guess, and how people receive me and where the money is. Um, but
Okay. Let me jump into that. Let me jump into that, Manolo and Zoe, because that's obviously pretty important. And you know, just to give people an idea right now. Okay, because you often hear of some people discouraging their kids when they're beginning to show off an extra tendency towards the arts. "Oh, come on, man, you're not gonna make money. You're not gonna make money off of that, or be more practical." But
yeah, wait, Bing, you don't have to pussyfoot around. It's basically, you know how Filipino parents are. It's you're going to be a doctor, you're going to be a professional, you're going to be a lawyer, you're going to be an accountant. Like they want you to do that. So Zoe, did you get that kind of pressure from your parents?
nobody wanted me to be doing it. Was like, I mean, okay, my parents are pretty progressive, and
mm,
I feel like I had, an outstanding education. Um, And so I was able to not necessarily convince them, but I didn't like bullshit them. I was like, this is how I see college. This is how I see my life. This is, I really studied the artists that I looked up to and their paths and how they got to because artists, I think, are super um, underrated, isn't the word I want to use. It's maybe like underappreciated in a
Mhm.
sense that like they are forced to be business people in certain, to an extent. And I don't think that's recognized enough. It's like when you show up as a performer, as an artist, obviously there are the artistic elements, but you have to like be an advocate for yourself. You have to find supplements to financially support yourself.
uh,
Um,
yeah.
no, I forgot the original question, but people like telling me no. I still get that, and I have that pressure on myself. I'm the last person that I want to see fail, um, or see myself. You know what I'm saying. I don't want
Yeah.
to see myself fail. Is what I want to say.
Yeah,
I
I
want to
get
think,
it.
you know, um,
Okay.
all these concerns and doubts and rejection. It's all super valid, and I have that for myself too. But I just kind of say, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. And if I fail, I know that I made this decision, because the truth is you can fail at anything. Like there's
That's
nothing
true.
guaranteed stability. You can have it for a moment, but like you just really never know. Sorry, you never know what's gonna happen. So
Okay. So another way of putting that question is that if someone is FOB, fresh off the boat, and says, I want to be just like Zoe over there, can there are there enough options available for you to right now make money off of the arts, off of being, you know, uh all these multi-hyphenate the media and art related things?
I definitely recognize my privilege. I grew up with parents that both had very stable jobs. I had, like I said, a great education and all these, like I had such access to professional performance programs. And so I don't, negate that at all.
I
And
know Berkeley's pretty tough, huh?
yeah, well, I mean, on the other end of that, it's like, obviously I had to put my work in. It wasn't just all
Yeah,
handed right there.
of course. I
Uh,
mean,
I think when it comes to like, I wouldn't recommend necessarily my path because everyone has their own, but like in a sense of, I don't, I'm not financially where I want to be. And I think that takes a while. And I think I've been at like in this game for 10 years ish, kind of doing music and modeling. And it's been fluctuating, the industries, to your other question of like, what am I, like, what am I doing? Where am I sort of like catering my career towards? I'd say like initially it was music. I went to school for music, and then I just realized, I mean, that's a whole other conversation, but after I dropped out of school, I realized like this is so hard. And I'm so lucky that I was able to transition into modeling so immediately, because that really saved my life, and financially. But I still work, hosting jobs, and I have like, again, it took 10 years, but now I work with this um, business called Silo, and they do like sync and film. So even that is super inconsistent because it's kind of like modeling and music, where it's like you get paid when you get picked up, if you get picked up.
it's the gig economy.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's so freelance and sporadic, but I've just been super lucky, and I also have had to work the less glamorous jobs, but I still love them. I choose them carefully.
Yeah, it's work, right? As long as it's
Yeah.
work, it goes on the resume, right? I think it's a tough situation. I mean, we talked to some other actors, and it's the same story. It's like you have to learn about what it's like to be rejected. Like that first time you're devastated, but then after a while, it's part of the job. It's part of the career path that you take. When we were talking about your family and support, talking about like how you kind of said, no, I'm not going to go the traditional path of college. I'm going to take my own path, which I admire a lot. I mean, I did the same thing myself. But when I look at how these Filipino families are structured, I mean, you have siblings, right, Zoe?
Yes, I have to.
Are you the ate? Are you the oldest, right?
Hey, I'm the ate. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the
how did
manang
that
now.
go? Yeah. I mean, that's the ate is who people look up to. They're the role models. And then you've got the traditional family value of a Filipino going, you're going to do it this way. And you're like, no, I'm going to do it my way, which is cool. Now you have your sisters looking up to going, maybe I should take Zoe's path. Like, did they follow in your footsteps, or are they on their own trajectory?
They are the ates in this situation. And, like,
Zoe, I can relate. I can relate.
love that. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, I think when people started to realize that this was what made sense for me, and that there's kind of talking myself out of it, or talking me out of it. And I think they appreciate it now. But like when you take the initial risk and step, it's like, oh my God, she's crazy. Like, this is the most wild thing ever. But I do get a lot of like compliments. Again, it's like when everything comes into a fruition, like if I get a song that's released or a billboard or whatever, it's like everyone all of a sudden is like, it's so happy for you. But it's like, I waited so long for this, and I
Yes.
really waited. So there's a
Yeah.
lot of external success that people recognize now. But like my sisters always have had my back. So it's never
That's
been
good.
like, yeah,
All
never
right.
been competitive or weird, or they have been on my side. Yeah.
Okay, here's another question. Because you're a multi-hyphenate, doing a lot of things, is it easy? Because Manolo and I I've worked in the marketing industry, where they say that you've got to be able to position yourself as something. You got to be stand out at one thing, and you got to be known as one for that one thing that you do. Because you are not doing one thing, and yet and you're an amalgamation of so many of these things, and that could be your position. So, is it hard to get to that next level because people don't know where to put you at in your industry?
Definitely, I think. I mean, I think the people, I've kind of cultivated this following of a melting pot of, different avenues that I've explored. So I have people following me from modeling. I have people following me from my Spotify. I think that depending where they found me, it makes sense what I'm doing. And then they're
Okay.
kind of surprised when they find it's kind of like walking in a Trader Joe's and then you see a candle. It's like, oh my God, I didn't know candles were in Trader Joe's. It's just like a nice thing, but it's like, oh, it makes sense. Like this is now my favorite candles from Trader Joe's, you know? Um, so I don't know. I think I kind of leave that open. Oh my gosh, leave that open to interpretation for people to receive me however they connect. I struggle too with that. Like, where do I place myself? You know, in the morning I wake up and I'm like, okay, what do I focus on? But I'm pretty intuitive and I just go with what I'm feeling. And some days I'm like, you know, a few weeks ago, I bought this course on real estate, which I don't know if I was just like in an existential crisis, financial panic. I don't know, but I'm like, maybe I should be a doctor today. Like, you know, kind of go with the flow, which is probably psychotic, but yeah. So it's very mood inspired, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I mean, it's definitely go with the flow, but that's the way it should be, right? Because you have to kind of live the truth that's yours, right? I think I'm gonna kind of box you in because I'm looking at just your resume because there's so many places we could go. But let's go with modeling first, right? Because we had a conversation, I think it was the last guest we had, Bing, where it was about perception of beauty, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
it's interesting to see, right? Because we all know that Filipinos are having a moment, right? The food, just the cultures. I mean, everything is kind of we're trending. I guess that's the term I was using the other day. Filipinos are trending. You know, it started with the food, and then Olivia, what's her name, Rodrigo, and all the other entertainers that are kind of claiming their Filipino-ness too.
Yeah.
But you've got this thing where we talked about Filipinas and beauty in America. Being a Filipino and being brown and being exotic is embraced. Like this is like the epitome or the perception of beauty, the framework by which everyone gets measured. But then we talk. You've been to the Philippines, right? A few times, I think.
Yes, but as a
Yeah.
wee lap.
Uh,
We left. So it's just, yeah. I remember it, but I was a child, so.
do you remember your Lola saying to you, "Don't stay out in the sun too long because you'll get too dark"?
No.
Oh, okay. Well, there's another, I'd say, standard in the Philippines where they want to be white. Like there's skin whitening creams. They don't like to stay out in the
It's
sun.
all over Asia, man. It's
Yeah.
all over Asia.
Not just the Philippines, but yeah.
Yeah.
There's a different standard of beauty that is being held, and it's like the opposite of here, right? When you get a tan here, you like to look darker. It's healthy looking. Over there, if you're dark, it means you stay out. You're a worker in the field. So it puts you in a different station. So when you go into these modeling gigs, is it because they say, hey, we need someone exotic looking, we need a Filipino looking person, or is it like how are you selected in that way?
And
I
related to that, Zoe, is it what is the industry right now? Is there a place for Asian, for Filipino, for Pacific Islander types of beauty?
I really don't have the answer. I'm confused how I'm confused how it works in an immediate way, but I understand obviously, like, 2020 Black Lives Matter, and then there was Stop Asian Hate. There was a huge demand for, like, all of a sudden they remembered I was on the roster, like, oh my God, what type of Asian are you again? Like, we're looking for, and so I think
Okay.
it's just really based on what's happening in society and politically. So obviously brands want to reflect, they want to be relatable, but they also want to reflect the times and have, they just want representation and they want people to sell. So I think that's like the short answer. I couldn't tell you what they're looking for now. I feel like I don't work that much. Just totally real. I think a lot of models probably can relate to that. Like, obviously there are a few that work all the time.
Mhm.
But I think it just fluctuates. It depends what's going on.
Yeah, I was looking at your modeling clients. I mean, you've got Vogue, you got Pink, Skechers, Snoop Dogg. Um, I remember when I was
Sorry,
looking through your Instagram. What's that?
sorry, I am not culturally, you know, obviously Vogue, I know, but
You
you threw
don't
me
know
off
Snoop Dogg?
yeah, I know who Snoop Dogg is, but what did you do with Snoop Dogg? Does he have,
Well, that hasn't even come out yet, honestly, but that's
okay.
a commercial for Skechers, and he's one of their partners.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, okay, so yes, because he's the creative guy. He
Mm.
wears a hat as well, Manolo, right?
Yeah, yeah. He knows everything. And I think Snoop Dogg's kind of hoard himself out these days.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, he was a part of our Christmas party at my agency. So
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah, I mean, I have a Snoop Dogg sweatshirt that he designed with our agency logo. But you know,
okay.
when I was looking at your Instagram, Zoe, I saw a bunch of different. You have a lot of your work you've done, but I saw something interesting. You were in Times Square, weren't you? Like,
That was my first job ever. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Hey,
totally
tell us about
random.
that.
So when I dropped out of college and I was busking, and which is basically singing on the street. And like
Yes.
I was so frustrated because nobody was really, I mean, there were some people that were listening, but I was just like some kid with a guitar or whatever. But so many people were like, "Do you model? Do you model?" And I was like, no. Like I was really into, like I'm into the arts. I love the arts. And at the time there was, these influencer photographers that I really loved their work. So I would just like reach out to them and kind of, back to the side gig conversation, I'd be like, "Hey, like, do you need an assistant, or like, can I work with you?" And
Yeah,
so
yeah,
they
yeah.
kind of took that as like, "Oh, you're a model trying to book a session." And so I kind of just accidentally started building my portfolio, and they would ask me like, "Oh, are you building your book?" Which is, portfolio. And I was like, "No, I have no idea what a book is." But anyway, this photographer that I booked, Jordan Keith, he randomly needed a model for a job coming up on like 2 days later, which was like that Monday or something like that. And I was like, "Yeah, I'm free. I'm doing nothing. Like, I don't know anything. I'm open." And so I did the shoot, my first job ever with these two other models. And then the next time I saw him, or I somehow heard, it's like, uh, wait, what happened? Let me get the story straight. Okay, so we did the shoot. Then there was a party that he was, all the photographers were going to show their work. So basically a bunch of photographers had been commissioned to shoot for Kodak, the new launch of a camera, and Forever 21. So it was all these photographers in this gallery, in this exhibition. And I'm looking at, our photos, and some photographer comes up to me who I had booked, like so funny. It was one of the photographers I booked. And he was like, "Oh my God, didn't we work together a few months ago? Did you know this is going to Times Square?" And I was like, and so like,
Wow.
and we flew to New York, and I was like, just like the most random wild thing ever.
she was
Yeah.
as big as a build. She was on one of the spectaculars on this Forever 21 screen thing. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's huge, unbelievable.
Yeah. Never modeled in my
Wow.
life. Yeah.
Yeah, for her first
Wow.
gig, right?
But I didn't get paid. Let's be clear. I didn't get paid. That was an
Well,
exposure.
hey, man, but how
Hey.
many people get to go to
Yeah.
to get their face
That
on
kind of
Times Square?
exposure pays for itself in some way. Right?
True. Yeah.
Very
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Yep.
Wow.
All right. So we've
Wow.
gone through the modeling part. Now I'm
Okay.
going down to the music and TV because you're also a recording artist.
Yes.
So
A jazz artist.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, which is Bing's favorite genre of music. So
Me
Well,
too.
yeah,
Yeah.
among others, I was
yes.
just listening the other night to Esperanza Spalding and Candice
Oh.
Springs.
Yes, love her.
So yeah. Wow. Sorry, so you play the guitar?
Yes.
Okay. And so you were talking about busking. What was on your repertoire? What was on the set list that in those days that you were?
I did a lot of jazz standards because I had trained or I was auditioning for college. So I had a bunch of jazz standards that I was, singing already. And then I had a lot of Corinne Bailey Rae.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
Love Corinne. And then I had some Emily King. But my voice is kind of delicate, you know? I grew up doing choir, so I don't have like a very belty voice. So just kind of any music that was
You
like,
are not Filipino that way. You got me bordering on crying and shouting and
I definitely have the drama, but the strength, I don't know. Yeah.
you got to be belting.
I felt it doesn't sound good.
Well, you said you have a few songs out now, right? They're on Spotify right now,
Yeah.
or
Yes.
yeah. So how's that? How'd that happen? Like,
Yeah.
were you just
Okay, so these are all kind of long stories. I don't know how much you
Ah,
really.
please? We'd
yeah,
love
I
to hear the
mean,
stories.
Okay.
yeah.
So, everything kind of goes together. When I was applying to colleges, my mom, kind of introduced me to the Berkeley summer program in Valencia.
Mhm.
And so somehow, luckily, I got in and we went for 2 weeks and I was meeting people from all over the world. And one guy named Adrian, he is from the Netherlands and we didn't even talk actually, like barely throughout the whole time, but we exchanged information at the end and then we kind of like were emailing back and forth for a few years. And then in 2018, I think he came to LA and he was like, yo, I'm going to be in the studio. Like, you should just come by. And I had never been in a recording studio, maybe like one other time for choir or something, but I really was never in the studio. But I had been writing songs since middle school when I decided I wanted to be an artist. So I had songs that they weren't good, but I just felt so pressured to like have something prepared. So I just like really quickly wrote a song about like, I don't even know. It was about this guy that I like had a crush on or something. Like again, I had written songs before that were similar, but like I was like, I need to have something. So I wrote a song the next day, went into the studio, and then we made it. And then we released it. And the guy that I shot with for the Forever 21 campaign, Jordan, he's friends with Shay Mitchell, who's another Filipina actress. She's on Pretty Little Liars. And I don't know what they were doing. I think he was shooting her or something. And he put my song on and she blasted it on her social media. So I got a lot of attention.
That's awesome.
Streams from that.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
full circle moment because I really was just making the song for fun. I had no idea that it was going to be received in any way. I just enjoyed it, you know?
Yeah.
And it kind of like, it came together because I wanted to do music and then I just felt like I wasn't taken seriously. And then so I started doing fashion, but then it kind of just was like, you know, swirled into each other, which I love.
Right. Well, it's like Rihanna, right? Right,
Yeah.
she's a musician and now she's into fashion. I mean, it all comes together. I mean,
Yeah.
True.
right?
So what's next for you music wise? I mean, fascinating. So what's next for you?
So with me, it kind of is based on trauma. It's kind of like, you know, when I come out of like a dark relationship or a dark time or something, that's really when I'm like throwing up all this.
It's
Like
the
all the
with the
residual-
creative juices.
Yes. I just feel like I like have something to say and I don't know how else to like politically correctly say it, deliver it. So it's kind of just like I can say whatever I want in a song, you know, without
right.
being.
How very Taylor Swift of you.
Thank you. Yeah, love. Honestly, you guys should try it. It's like it's therapeutic for sure.
So that's your inspiration, is like you go through some sort of emotional event and it's your way of expressing it and
Yeah.
sharing it, right? That's amazing. When you come up with these the inspirations, right? While they may come from a dark place, is there any areas of your Filipino life that have crept in? That, when I say Filipino, is it like do you remember something your mom always told you that's related back to Philippines, or your lola, or any from a traditional standpoint? Have you thought about like your roots in the Filipino side of things as part of an inspiration?
I think naturally it comes out. I don't know if I've ever deliberately, like intentionally focused on Filipino culture when I'm creating, but I know for sure my grandma, I mean, full Filipino, like she's my biggest influence of all time. Like everything that she shared with me. And then I think now also realizing like, what I've gravitated towards, I didn't maybe necessarily associate it with Filipino culture, but now I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. Like, this like tropical exotica, jazz, and like when I see old pictures, I'm like, oh my God, it makes so much, like, I would definitely have been there and fit right in. And, I think I was, for lack of a better term, like whitewashed kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So like having to like re-identify and like find myself through art, but just like naturally, resonating with all the things that she put me on. It's just like, especially the 50s and the 60s where it's like they still did celebrate culture, but it wasn't so explicitly, like this is the Philippines. It was kind of just like, we just love hula, like exotic, women that are racially ambiguous, kind of like, like you said, we celebrate that now, but it's like there's definitely like an over sexualization and like exploitation of the culture. So I think, anyway, complicated answer, I guess, but I think I just am the way I am because of her, and
Yeah.
she's me, and like I'm influenced by what I am, and then I just have found it coincidentally. It makes sense that it.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, from what my experience, again, I'm Bing gives us the other half, right? Because he's born and raised and is Filipino. I would say I'm an American Filipino just because I didn't grow up in the Philippines, but I lived there and I worked there. When I look at how matriarchal the Filipino society is, the mothers and the grandmothers are kind of the core that inspires at least most of the guests we've had. It's usually the mothers, especially if they're Filipino, that kind of drive
The Philippines is a bunch
your
of
life.
mama's boys.
Yes. Yep. I mean, would you say that like your mom? I mean, I know you explained how they all support you, but does she come back in your head when you're thinking through things like the little shoulder voice that says, you know what, this is really what you should do, right? Does that come up in your life?
I mean, she's always in my head, but maybe not in that way. I really, really, really love my mom. Like my mom and my grandma, like my closest. We're just like a very close family. Like my mom, my grandma, my sisters, especially, we're really close. And so when I think of my mom, it's more so like she's just another artist to me.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody that really inspires me, somebody I look up to and I channel her thinking, but it's definitely not patronizing, and it's definitely not preachy. Like she's never really, she has some things to say, like you should, be consistent and have a schedule, and, obviously caring for for my health and like the choices that I'm making. But I think she also knows that I'm stubborn, and she knows I'm going to do whatever I want.
Right.
And deal with the consequences, But I think that's like the beauty of our relationship, is having that freedom and the trust of like, she was not super monitoring or strict with me. So now we just have like a really great friendship and we can talk about anything. Yeah, she's not really in my head in negative or naggy space at all. Yeah.
Yeah. So you have this resilience in you that I've seen, and what you're talking about, all the things that you've kind of had to live through. I feel like it seems like your mom and maybe your grandmother too kind of brought that cultural Filipino resilience and embedded it into you. Is that a fair assessment of what's going on with you?
Yeah. I love that you said that. There's an interview that Angelina Jolie did recently, talking about how she appreciates basically when people are not complaining, where they kind of just like put their head down and deal with it. And I think my mom and my grandma were very much that way. Like they're, going through something that's painful or difficult. It wasn't like, oh my God, I can't. It was just like they figured it out. And nobody knew that they were struggling. They just did it. They handled it. They were boss women, boss people. And so I think I really try to channel that. And they're, obviously both icons to me. So.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. Yep, absolutely.
Resilient women.
Oh yeah. Growing up, so you got your mom, your lola, your siblings. So you're a pretty tight family. Does the Filipino does the Filipino American experience, stand out in that sense? In that, do people ask you the same thing, but why is your mom calling you, or why is your dad calling you, or you know what, why do people wonder? Do other race, let's put it that way, do they get to wonder why does your family figure so much in your life more than it does in, is it that way? I just want to ask, because you talk about it, and then it seems to me that it's a integral part of your life. But I've also heard the stories where people are also part, people from the non-Filipinos, probably they get out of their house and it's almost as if they're on their own, and you see it on TV. They don't connect with their families after for so long, and it's as if, okay, I'm gone, cut the cord. So is that thing strange, perhaps even, or different to other uh, races or whatever that are in the U.S.?
Sure. I think I've realized a lot especially with dating, that, like being introduced to other people's homes and families, like
Mm-hmm.
we have a very special connection. And I'm not really sure if I haven't really paid attention to that, like in terms of race and culture. I don't know if that's like, because I maybe, like I had, like there are people that I know that come from like other countries, obviously, but like I wonder if there's that, you know what, maybe there's some closeness that you have with your
Mm-hmm.
family because you come, I don't know. I actually don't have the answer, but
Manolo,
I can think of that.
how about
Yeah.
you? What do you think, man?
What was the question again?
No,
Say it
because
again.
because we've always discussed it, that part of we seem to have that extra closeness over here. You've noticed that the Filipino families, and over there in the U.S., the Filipino American families, or Filipino families over there in the U.S., they try to carry that on. So do people of different racial backgrounds or cultural backgrounds, do they find it different, at least, that we actually demonstrate that, or we
I
we
get the
manifest that?
question. Yes. So I'll put it this way. I mean, I think if you go back in time when I was younger, and I'll say
Yeah.
starting in high school,
Mhm.
it was definitely. And Zoe, you may have kind of lived this through in your Filipino heritage. Your parents kind of dictate what you're going to be doing. It's my friends were like, "Hey, I'm going to go hang out with my friends on the weekend. We're going to go to the mall. You want to come?" And I go, "I got to ask my mom because there's going to be
Mm.
chores I have to do." Or my grandmother would be like, "Let's send Manolo to your aunt's house because they need slave labor to help them build a roof on their house." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
You
that
had a disease. You had a disease then. It's called asthma.
yeah. Ask Ma,
Asthma, mom.
ask Ma. So yeah, there's definitely a strong Filipino family
Mm.
drive. And I think, as I got older, I kind of pulled away from it because, growing up in the US, I kind of hid. And Zoe, it's probably, I guess I should ask you this. Do you have to, or have you ever had to kind of hide the fact that you're Filipino because you were embarrassed about it?
I'm
Or it
sure.
was too different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
I think I've always just felt alienated and
mhm.
still do feel that way. As a kid, it's a lot different. Like I remember because, I'm Filipino, but I'm mixed. So I have like curly hair. And I remember I didn't wear it out often, until I got to college and I moved to New York City. I was like, people love my hair. And so I started wearing it out. But in high school, even, I was, felt really insecure. About being Filipino, I think nobody would really know. Unless they ask. I think now even people are like, are you Latina? Are you Hawaiian? They just sort of like romanticize, or like they kind of dictate wherever I am, like the context or like how I'm looking that day,
Do you get mistaken a lot for a specific ethnicity? And which one is it?
Yes. I mean, Samoan, I get a lot.
Mm. Pacific
Or, like,
Islander, that generic guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much it. But I sometimes for fun I lie. Like when someone asks me what I am, I'll just like mix it up.
Yeah.
They're like, I knew it, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
I do the same. When I lived in Texas, people were like, "You're
yeah,
Spanish, aren't you? Or you're Mexican." I'm like, "Yeah,
yeah,
yeah,
Mexican,
yeah."
Mexican,
I got that a lot.
yeah, yeah.
I mean, your name's pretty Mexican, Manolo.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
exactly.
the family name too.
Yeah, it was definitely not helpful when you have a name like Manolo Almagro.
That's right.
Did you? I guess going back to this ethnicity story, Zoe, did you ever have or experience any kind of racism? I mean, I'm sure you have around some sort of thing.
All the time, still.
Yeah, in the
Uh,
industry or just in general. Tell me more about like modeling and the music industry. Is that something where you have had or see racism or preference for a specific kind of culture?
for sure. I mean, definitely in modeling and acting or whatever. In the entertainment industry, that's I think just inevitable, and I think obviously that's a business where your looks are everything, and so
Mhm.
it makes sense.
Will you get the phone?
Sorry. Hang on. I'll make it disappear for a while.
Okay, go ahead, Zoe. We'll edit that part out.
Hang on. And then just in line with what we were discussing, that was my mom.
See?
Hang on,
Yeah.
hang on.
Okay, you get that. I'm going to talk to Zoe here.
Us boy.
Mhm.
And there have been moments that are totally out of pocket in modeling where like, and I didn't understand this until after 2020, to be honest.
Mhm.
Because, like I said, it took me a while to kind of like recontextualize and like understand who I am and how people because like you have an idea about yourself, and I learned this the hard way, like about like in regards to like romance and sexuality, like how people are. Because like I myself and I'm, whatever. Basically what I'm trying to say is what's the question? Oh yeah, racism.
Racism.
After 2020, I like it was super everything just made a lot of sense. Like the microaggressions that
Mhm.
happened like in childhood, I was like, oh, that was racism. Like I just thought they were being I didn't understand it. I felt weird, but like now I understand that was racism. Or like still to this day, like sometimes on shoots, I'm tempted to name names, but I won't. Moments where they just say the most crazy stuff, and like being mixed, I think there's kind of what's the word? Not a limbo, but like there's like an in between of like it almost gets okay. Here's a really obvious example of like when someone says, "What are you?" and
Yeah.
it's super innocent, or it can it's all in the tone and the delivery. But like stuff like that, where it's just like I really didn't need that, or like trying to explain to like HR or to like my agents, this is what happened. It's really hard to articulate something so nuanced, or maybe
Mhm.
like they're not Filipino or they're not, POC. So it's like, that was normal, or like that's totally fine. But yeah, I experience it all the time. Maybe in different ways because I'm not totally one thing.
Right.
Like I've heard some stuff. Uh, again, based on how I look, like when my hair is straight, I look a lot more Asian, and then when my hair
Mhm.
and whatever the look is, but definitely experience that. And also in dating a lot. That's like
Yeah.
huge distaste for just comments and like the romanticization and also the over sexualization of being like an exotic. Like that's one of my least favorite words.
Yeah.
Like I know that it can be something beautiful, but like unique and exotic and just like all these terms that people throw at you and define, it just becomes exhausting. So
Yep.
you know
Yeah, well, I saw that a lot when I was in Cebu recently, like last week, right? You can see that there are a lot of these older, I don't want to pick on a specific nationality, but let's say
Or skin
European.
tone.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are a lot of European older men with a lot of
Oh,
younger
oh yes.
Filipinas. And
Yes.
it like I could pick them out and it kind of made me real,
There.
right? So to your point about, there's a certain level of objectifying an Asian woman to a certain role, I think it's definitely perpetuated in the Philippines, right? And granted, it maybe it's not the choice of the woman to be there. It's just her way of surviving because that's the only way they can make it out of there. You know what I mean? I'm not judging them, but I can see that when you said that, it kind of made me remember like what women and women that are Filipino women have to go through, right? I think my sister goes through that as well. Like she's mentioned that before. I mean, luckily now she's married and things like that, but it seems like that's something that has not changed or evolved over time. I mean, maybe the fact that, we're more accepting of people that are different or mixed race, things like that these days, and not so much now. Like our new president is probably rolling everything backward, but I think that, before this year, we got to a point where maybe things were moving in the right direction. So I hope that will change in the future, maybe 4 years from now when we start over. But I want to make sure we go ask you. You have some projects that you're working on now, Zeauxi. We'd love to hear about what you're working on now, or your future plans. Like, do you want to share anything about that?
Do I have some projects? I mean, I've been focused on modeling, so whenever I get a gig for that, I'm open to that. I really would love to explore acting. I am hesitant to, I mean, I just said it, but I'm reluctant to share because it's just like hasn't happened yet. But I really would love, I've taken acting classes, I've done musical theater, but I would love to just explore that in my future. I don't know. Music wise, I think I'm not there yet where I've processed everything. Like I just released, well, I released a project recently, just like my demo songs, but the before that was more, I guess, structured and more official with this artist named Galimatias, who's like somebody I really love.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was kind of like my big, it's not like, the end of my career, but after I did that, I was like, you know what, I'm ready to take a beat and kind of focus on other things, but always open to projects. Yeah.
How about photography? Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Finn, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to, because you started off by saying that you were focusing on modeling, and over there right now, most of the people probably will, though the older ones at least, or you seem to get a lot. We've got different media right now. When you say modeling before, it used to be you'd go on a print ad, or on a it's a magazine or television. So what are the different modeling jobs available for models these days? Because there's so much media, and the old media in a sense has branched out different formats, and then some of them have scaled the magazines have sort of scaled down. So give us an idea of what is the modeling industry like. What is the output these days? Where do models appear these days?
My specific career has a healthy combination of all the media. So I've done, magazines, I've done runway, I've done commercials. A lot of the modeling now, though, is evidently online. So you have, one of the recent campaigns I did, they had me shoot pictures, and I've seen campaigns where they have, the ad plastered on a wall in New York or something. But then you have part of the day where you're shooting for, social media content, where it's like you take a professional photo and then you go back and you just like, do a little video applying or something. So it depends on the brand. I think it depends on obviously like their marketing and like where their demographic is. If it's primarily on Instagram, like you're going to shoot a lot of content online, but I think there's still a nice traditional modeling community or like branding. I appreciate that real life, not even real life, but like I appreciate when it's still an art,
Mm-hmm.
it's all, because not anyone can be great, but like anyone can whip out their phone and take a picture. You know what I mean? So when something like that, it's like, I love my job so much. I don't mind doing it, but I really prefer like the bigger campaigns when there are art directors and
Yeah.
classic day. Yeah.
Well, you have to do everything, right? You're your own art director, you're your own photographer, you're your own content producer. Like there's a lot that goes in. Like I was actually going to ask you, you know, I also want to get to a point where we share your social links and stuff, but what's the typical day for you like when because you have to pump out this content all the time, right? I mean, that must be exhausting.
Yeah.
It can be overwhelming if you are affected or you let comments like infiltrate your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And definitely I'm susceptible. Like I'm not impervious to like what people are saying and the experience online, but I kind of just don't give an F.
Yeah.
A lot
That's
of it.
good.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to content, like I feel like I'm disciplined, but that's because I kind of, and I don't even know if this is like super privileged to say either, but like the way that I live my life where it's kind of just like, if I feel like eating a donut, I'm going to eat a donut. And if I feel like, okay, well, now I ate too many donuts, I need to just drink juice for the rest of the week. And like, that's how I treat my career. And that's how I treat my social media presence. So, you know, in retrospect, I appreciate myself because I'm like, wow, I really cranked out a lot of content, but it wasn't with the mentality of like every day I wake up at 8 a.m. and I shoot this and I shoot this. But something I do consistently that I credit to my grandma is almost every day, but nearly every day I wake up and I get ready. So whatever makeup that is and whatever outfit that is, I still put an effort, like whether or not I feel like it. I wish I was that way with everything, like walking. But like I'm very consistent with like putting on a face and make sure I do something no matter how small. So I think that kind of just like, you know,
All right,
gradually
Zoe. So
Yeah.
I see you right now, and this is your look for the day. Because you say that I'm gonna I'm gonna prepare
Yeah.
my outfit and all this. So if I, suddenly end up in the U.S. tomorrow, and I spot you tomorrow, am I gonna see another look? Is that the way that you say?
Right. So valid. So valid.
Huh?
Maybe it's not going to look so similar to this, but I try to stay in a realm of, because it's me after all, you know, it's like you can't really deny your truth. So like I probably won't be wearing flowers tomorrow. I don't know. I might not be wearing makeup tomorrow, but I'll have some variation, some derivative of my core. So there'll be some piece of me that you'll recognize, like cheetah or fur or flower or cat eye.
Variations on a theme.
Yeah.
All
Yes.
right. Very musical.
Awesome. All right, so we're close to the end of the show. We've kept Zoe long enough, but let's do some rapid fire questions. It's all going to be about Filipino things. So, first off, what is your favorite Filipino food?
Ha! I knew it. Turon.
Ah,
Turon?
yeah.
Whoa. Yes.
Yeah. Or
That's a Whitney Houston song, right? I want to run to you.
My God.
Oh. Did I just sing that? That was a horrible song. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
What is the phrase your mom or your grandmother always said that was when they were exasperated with you? Yeah.
All right.
All right.
She's Pinoy.
Yeah. I'm just establishing that she did live through that.
That was the authenticator test.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any like Filipino inspirations or heroes? I mean, it's okay if you don't. Like, I couldn't name one off the top of my head. I mean, the last one we talked about was like Manny Pacquiao. Like, yeah.
Mine is Manolo Almagro.
Please. Oh, that's sad. That's very sad, Bing. How about you, Zoe?
Go.
I'd say I just looked this up before the interview. Old shirt singer.
Hmm.
I didn't know he was Filipino, but
I didn't either. I did.
Pauly Shore?
No, Nicole Schwarzenegger. She's one of the
Oh,
Pussycat Dolls.
yeah, I know. Of course, I know her. Yeah,
Yes.
not know her, no, but yeah, of course, I know of her.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I
Yes.
I mean, it's funny because like everybody has their top 5 Filipino actors, actresses, models that they love, and like that's one of them I've heard. Right. So I had to look that up too. I was like, wait, I didn't know she was.
You know, but Zoe, Manolo and I are of that age. You know, I think our first thing is gonna be Tia Carrere.
So didn't get that. Like before, I was like, I look nothing like. I didn't know who she was, but someone's like, you really look like Tia Carrera, and I was like, well, I looked.
Yes,
Ooh,
I see
yeah.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, see,
I can see that. The younger version of her, not what she looks like today. She looks more
Oh,
mature today. Yes.
yes.
Yes. Okay. So, being any more questions before I close this out?
All right. Well, share where because I want you to spell it out because you know we were all so used to saying Zoe and all that, but right now if people want to follow you, you were saying link to your socials, and please spell it out because people could be just listening to us right now and not wanted to see Manolo's face or my face, you know. So yeah,
It's
spell it out, please.
Zeuxi. And when you think of me, hopefully you think of Bordeaux, like wine.
Mm-hmm.
So if
Ooh.
you're ever struggling, it's like Bordeaux spelling, but Zeuxi.
Yep.
Yes.
So, are you on TikTok, Instagram? What's your platform of
Preferred
choice?
platform.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Yeah, Instagram is preferred. I have all the platforms, but Instagram is my main. I'd say.
Agree. Yeah.
Yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
How about so you said you were on Spotify, like people could look you up for find your music.
Yes, same name.
Same name. YouTube? Is there a YouTube?
Yes, same name. Yeah.
So Zoe on YouTube. Just Zoe. Okay, good. Okay. And I will make
Wow.
sure to put that in the description and on the video side too so people
Manolo,
can see it.
it's
Yeah.
just Zoe, all right? Not Zoe on YouTube. I just want to make sure.
Yes, it's youtube.com/Zoe. Yeah. And Zoe, let's ask you one last question as we close out before we end the show, which thank you for being on the show. And
Yeah.
hopefully when you have your next project, you'll let us in on it and we'll have you on the show again. You can talk about it. But
Yes, definitely.
to our listeners who are, Filipinos that are looking for inspiration or maybe even breaking into modeling or want to songwrite things, what would you say? What's your advice to them? Like in a sentence, you don't have to be like all philosophical, but what would your words of wisdom be to a Filipino that's looking for this future?
Don't
One
take.
who's been at it for the past 10 years, as you
Yeah.
say.
Yeah.
Say don't take advice. Don't listen to anyone.
Good.
Tune it out. Do
Yeah.
what you do. What will make you feel, happy, safe, content, fulfilled. But like everyone has an opinion. Everyone thinks that they know what they're doing, but no one knows what they're doing. So just, I would say that to myself. I don't know if some people maybe like advice, but I don't like advice. And I think if I took advice, it would lead me somewhere else that I probably wouldn't be happy in.
Yep. Stay resilient, Zoe. I'm sure
All
you will
right.
be very famous and successful. So, all right.
Yes.
Thank you for being on our show. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for
Thanks
having
a
me.
lot, Zoe.
All right.
Thank you.